Hey everybody, it's Strict9 with Strict9 GP, and welcome to another episode of my Out of the Park Baseball playthrough with the Phillies. We are into the offseason following the 2034 season, so getting ready for 2035. So I'll go through what I usually do with these, look at the playoffs first, which I have on the screen right now, and then we'll take a look at offseason or postseason awards, and then we'll get to rebuilding this team. It's November 25th right now in the playthrough of 2034. So free agents have already filed. We've got winter meetings coming up. I'd like to get to the Rule 5 draft in this one. We'll see how it goes. And I'll show you what I've done and what I've got to do to get that team back in order. But first things first, I think it's kind of interesting between the two playthroughs that I just finished the 2020 season in that Reds playthrough, and the Braves won the World Series. And now we're in 2034, and the Braves were in the series but lost in 5 games to Oakland. Oakland had a really good dominating year this year. Um, if you look at the history over the last few years, that's the second time they've made the World Series in the last 3 years. They've won it a couple times in the last, 6 years. Atlanta, they've been in 3 straight World Series, so they've got a really kind of a mini dominant run going on here. It doesn't help me that we're in the same division, so hopefully they'll start slowing down here soon. Uh, but I wanted to start there and then look at those off-season awards and see if there's any guys that we recognized. If we look at the Gold Glove winners first, uh, a lot of new guys for me on this list. Kevin Maitan, that's how you say it. He's been in the league for a while. I think he was a prospect when this thing started, way back in 2017, 2018. He's had a pretty good career. He's still a good defender at third. And then for the National League, Omar Baldo, it's a catcher who I tried to pick up last offseason, couldn't swing it. He wanted way too much money. We got Wally Kuhn for the Braves, guy I recognize. Josh Porter is a 5-star player, a really good young player for the Pirates. Pirates have got a pretty decent team going on too. They had a lot of good drafts in a row and picked up some really great players. For reliever of the year, it went to Garrett Prescott in KC. He had 43 saves on the year. That's his first time winning it. He was a reliever for a while there, for a closer actually for Atlanta for a while. And I don't see any of my previous players on that list. But for the National League, it went to Bobby Buchanan for the Marlins. It was first time he's won that. So great year for him. And then Platinum Stick Awards, Kinsler Jr. was on there again. He's having just an incredible year. McCurry, who went from Atlanta to Houston, he had 48 home runs this year. He's having a good career still. And Mike Pelton, shortstop with Toronto. He's now 32. I think he had some injury problems there a few years early in his career. He's also a 5-star player. He's putting together a pretty solid career too, already above 50 wins above replacement, on pace for some pretty good career numbers if he stays healthy enough. And then for the National League, any Phillies in here? Yeah, we have one Philly, J.J. Lohman, who continues to just be really make me happy that I picked him up. A great season for him. Then Miami, Juan Molinar, a good young player there at shortstop. Josh Porter again. Reynaga, who's center fielder with Pittsburgh and really the best player, I think, in this playthrough right now. Rookie of the Year, it went to Ken Godsey in Chicago, who had 58 home runs in his rookie year, so that's a record. I don't think anybody's beaten that. And then the National League, it went to Ma for the Phillies. So he was an international free agent. So we did have some positives there. He's now a 5-star player. I'm going to try to keep him at second, and hopefully he continues to be that kind of a player throughout his contract. I've got him signed for quite a while through the 2039 season, but you can see $14.5 million is where he tops out. That's a really good value for him if he keeps that up. McMillian in American League at the Athletics Manager of the Year. Watson for Miami won it in the National League, and now I was kind of surprised to see this, but Ian Plyler actually signed a contract extension with St. Louis. He's now a 4-star pitcher, so he's definitely getting to that tail end of his career. But coming off I would say his worst year since he's been a starter in this league. You'd have to go back to 2025 when he had an ERA that high, but even then he had 19 wins. For the first time since 2025, he did not lead the league in strikeouts. But he's on pace now. Next season, again, if he stays healthy enough, he'll get to 3,000 strikeouts. He's already 70 plus on wins above replacement. 6 Cy Young awards, and I think that was 6 in a row, but maybe he mixed it up a few seasons in there, but just an amazing run for him. The Cy Young award this year, though, went to Rocky Stromain in a weak year for pitchers. That was his second Cy Young award in his career. He did lead the league in wins above replacement for pitchers at 6.3 and ERA, but just 14 wins. This guy's a 5-star pitcher, a good pitcher for sure, but pitching is just not really doing that great here. And then Bobby Buchanan got, in another weak year for starters, got the Cy Young award as that reliever for Miami. Any Phillies showing up on that list? Nope. And then we look at the most valuable player awards. Kinsler came out of nowhere, really. He got really hot there towards the end of the year, picked up his 3rd MVP. This guy is just an incredible player. 8.7 wins above replacement. He's signed now, too, for a pretty long-term contract. He is, I believe, the highest paid player in the league. $53 million a year. Don't doubt that he's worth it, but that's pretty scary to give somebody that much money. And Mercury, though, looks like he was runner-up. And then National League, it went to Reynaga, his first time, but it was definitely worth it. Was just percentage points away from the Triple Crown. He just barely got beat out in average, but everything else, 54 home runs, 140 RBIs, 8.6 wins above replacement. He's 22 years old, so he's going to be around for a while. And in salary arbitration, we got hit quite a bit with a couple guys. Danny Ude, $9.3 million. He is one of my better options. I can't really, at this point, 3-star pitcher is, with those kind of ratings, is very valuable in this league, so I can't really complain too much about it. Then McSparren, though, I hate to see him get that much money. I offered $3.5 million. Even though his individual ratings are solid, he's just, after that first full year with us, he hasn't really been the same pitcher. And I think this is probably going to be my last year with him because he should be a free agent after next season. And I think I'll just have to let him go. He didn't really develop into what I thought he would be. And now we're at the free agent period. Let's take a look, though, where our goals are for this year, because there's some couple things here that are really going to be tough to accomplish. We're coming into this thing with a lot of money for free agents, but that's because we've got some offers out there, and I'll show you those. But he's wanting us to have a projected balance of $19 million. That's a pretty, by 2036, so it does give me a couple years to play around with. But the problem I'm having is, I mentioned previously, this team is really struggling with its farm system. The worst farm system I've had with any team I can remember in any version of this game that I've played. And I know I'm playing in the challenge mode. I'm not using, I'm not logging in and reporting my scores or anything like that. But I just picked the challenge mode because it kind of gives you a fog of war effect with the game. It shuts off some editing options. You can't see the fatigue ratings on the players, a few other things. You can't see one thing that really hurts me with the minor league farm system, I think, is you can only see your head scout and OSA ratings relative to the major leagues. If you're playing normally, there should be a setting over here that says, so drop down, you can see their ratings relative to the league they're in, or really you can do whatever league. This guy's in Clearwater High A right now. What if I wanted to take a look at how his ratings stack up against Double A? I think Reading, would he be willing or would he be ready to move up? And I don't use that a whole lot. I'm starting to use it a little bit more in that Cincinnati playthrough, but I think that's a little bit of a handicap. And I'm having to rely on basically just looking at the ratings myself and relying on those up and down arrows, and seeing if I get lucky. But looking from Double A to low A, which is where I really look for movement. If a guy's going to develop, this is where it'll start showing up. I've got 1 2-star pitcher, 1 2-star outfielder, and this outfielder may have a chance because his individual ratings look good, his defense looks good, and he's played really adequate, if not good, at times in the minors. And he was a scouting discovery. That would be pretty rare. OSA thinks he's a little bit better overall potential. But 1 3-star potential shortstop who was a guy who I just kind of created to fill out a roster. He's got maybe some upside, good defender, but his contact rating's low. And that's it. I mean, some 2 stars, and that's really it. I haven't seen a farm system this week since I've been playing this thing. And a couple seasons ago, I had that rough season. I think it was 2032. I got the number 2 pick in the draft, and it was a terrible draft class. And I went with Ian Norman first. He was a 5-star potential from my scout and OSA. And you can see his potential is now down to 3.5. He's at high A currently. I really wish I could see what he would do. If I wish I had that rating to see how he stacks up, but I don't. And so I'm going to move him up right now. I'm also probably going to move Bobby Kirtley up because his ratings are really good too. Not as high with OSA, but again, I'm just having to rely on pretty much the arrows and where my scout has the ratings, and it's just it's been really tough. And I go back from this, I go back to my owner goal of balancing out that budget and having 19 million available. We're going to have to build this team in free agency, maybe some trades, and it's going to eat into that available money. So that's one goal I'm probably going to miss already. But we'll see how it turns out as we go along. I wanted to go ahead and look at free agency and what we've got going so far. In the offseason summary by team, I mentioned that last time. We lost a lot of guys, and we're at 8.7 in the hole with wins above replacement. So far, I don't think any of the offers have. Now we still haven't got any offers that are coming in, and mainly the big blows where just a couple 2+ wins above replacement guys, 3 actually when you count Barge, but it adds up, and no guys who I was really depending on too much. Although Yoakum at times looked pretty good last year, I just don't know if I can swing the salary he wanted in an extension. But if you look at the offers that I've made so far, I needed a catcher, and I went with Nehemiah Lucky, who's a good defender, has good personality ratings, has had some decent offensive years throughout the league. He is what he is. I mean, he's 2-star rated, so he's not going to be that great, but there's just not a whole lot available. I offered him a 1.5 year or 1 year, $8.5 million contract. And then I finally swung for a high contract offer on a pitcher, but again, it's a 3-star. And both my scout and OSA, he's in the midpoint of his career. He hasn't had what I would consider any dominant type years since he's been in the league. It's just I'm going on the ratings and my scouting report from my scout. It's been pretty poor, but he's the best available, and I'll show you that in a minute. And then this guy is a sleeper. He is fragile, but he was wanting a low salary. At least he was willing to talk to me for a low salary. He's got great personality ratings, great speed, great defender at left, and really solid individual batting ratings. A 4-star overall from my scout, 3.5 from OSA. This guy, if I pick him up, he would. I think he would give me some options trade-wise, and might be a good guy to start in place of a couple of options I have already in that outfield. But looking at some of the guys available in free agency, as always, I needed a catcher, but Jake Holland, a 5-star, he's wanting way too much money, I think, for his age, and well, his ratings are pretty good, I'm not going to lie, but I didn't want to go that high on him, and I don't know if he's got a team interested in him, but he's probably going to go. I just don't, if I were to sit here and offer him a contract, yeah, he's still wanting long term, and I just at that amount of money, I don't think I want to go there. Mike Pelton, that big shortstop, is out there. For me, my weakness obviously is going to be starting pitching, but shortstop, I've got a couple of options here. I could swing, a platoon situation between these two, so I'll be okay there. Looking at the holes that I have to fill, though, I've got Prieto, Oud, McSparran. Those guys are pretty much set in that rotation. Prieto stumbled a little bit at the end of the year, but he had 14 wins between us and Milwaukee. He's got great durability ratings. He's signed through 35 with $8.2 million. I think this guy was a good pickup for me. Not a number one starter again, but when you get to that 4th and 5th spot, I'm struggling. I put Furlong up there. He's a guy I traded for last offseason, hoping that he would turn into something, and his numbers actually look decent in AAA, so I'm going to give him a look in spring training and see if he can't develop some ratings. I'm okay with that bullpen. Espinal is really got some solid ratings, but his stamina's low, and he's only got the 2 strong pitches. And right now, he's happy being a bullpen guy. My scout thinks he's got the stuff to close, and that might be an option a couple years down the road. But bullpen is fine right now. Roland, I got him for another year through 2035. I hope he has a better year than last year. But catcher is a concern. Kwarteng is still young. His offensive ratings are good. But that catcher arm, I really like having somebody at least, 10, 12 is usually my cutoff, because that's when they start getting into the green if you look at the ratings. He might be adequate if I can't find a better option at catcher, but I don't think he's going to be a long-term starter. And then first base, really big holes there. It's going to be Padilla, who was injured a lot last year. I want to give him a little bit more of a shot, but mainly because his offensive ratings, especially against righties, are really solid. But defense is a question mark, and I don't know if he's really going to be a dependable starter for a full season. And that leaves me with some concerns questions, I guess I could say, in the outfield. Vargas came on a little bit better last year, but I might start trying to work him into left field next year and push him down a little bit in the lineup. Eddie Tipton is not strong defensively, but he offensively was pretty good there for the most part. And Amari Andres, I think he needs some more time. He got injured and that hurt him. Otherwise, he was having a good year when he went down. He's, I think, a better option in right if he would develop a little bit more. Catola's a good backup. Dutch, another good backup. Kevin Cox, who I have gotten some really good trade offers for, he's not that solid defensively either. And I'm hoping if I pick up the guy I offered in free agency, I'm going to experiment with moving Kevin Cox to first next year in spring training. That's my goal right now anyway. Offensively, this guy, I think he's just going to get hot, I feel, before it's over. And I think he's going to put together a good season. I hope it's with us. But that's the goal right now. So I'm not really going to go for a first baseman in free agency right now unless maybe some trade offer comes through and falls in my lap. And even if I look at free agency, some of the first basemen available, there's this guy, Godinez, is a international free agent with great numbers, individually, good defense, but he has a questionable work ethic, and I hate throwing that in there in the middle of a team that's, for the most part, chemistry is good. I don't want to risk that. And other than that, I mean, you're going down the list. Arteaga here he's fragile, so that would be a gamble too, I think. So no true first baseman available free agency that would be much of an improvement over what I have right now. So I'm going to ride that one out. So let's go ahead and sim ahead to when the winter meetings start. We might get lucky and have some trade offers come in here that are advantageous for us. And this is with the latest update too. There was some trade reworkings made, so it works a little bit different. We might look at some of that in this episode. I'm getting just an interested offer right now from, who is this? Tampa Bay. This guy has good numbers for sure. He's durable, coming off a decent year. OSA is not as sold on him. My scout would probably, he's front of the rotation ability, so it could probably be, in a perfect world, would probably be a good two or three starter in that rotation. Let me see if anything would work out. I wonder if they would take Espinal just to see. This might be the worst offer I've ever seen in my career. I don't think so. Come on. You've seen worse than that. But those, I never really get much going with those anyway. So that's okay for now. If I look at the trading block, I haven't looked at that in a while. There is Joe Mann available. I don't know why he's available. I might be able to work something up with this guy, to be honest. He's signed one more year, $14.2 million. I've got the room for the most part. And he's they're saying he could be a number one starter, at least my scout is. I wonder what they would take for him. So I'm assuming as San Francisco, they just wanted to get rid of some. So they would take Kevin Cox, Ood, Ma. I hate to go with Ood, even though that $9 million, that would, that would make the trade a little bit more easy to digest, because I'd only really be losing about $5 million. But that would make me thin again in the pitching staff. And I just feel like if Kevin Cox develops these numbers, that's a lot of, or at least develops to these ratings, that's a lot of offense I'm taking out of the equation. I think what I'm going to do, I'll probably revisit this if, going back to free agency, if I'm able to pick up Villa or LaRue. Depends on those two guys. That may change things if I'm able to get one or both of those guys. So now we're in. So Rob LaRue, he is favoring my offer at the moment. Lucky looks like he's favoring my offer as well. Another pitcher, Zion Cabbage Stalk. Okay. Same deal. He's from Seattle. 3.5 star player. He's fragile. I'll pass on that one. And Prescott goes to the Cubs. He was the 2034 reliever. Yeah, he was the reliever of the year in the American League. So we're going to get to these winter meetings here soon. And a trade proposal from Baltimore. Villa is also favoring my offer. So far, all three guys are favoring my offer. I hope that's not because they're so bad that nobody else is touching them. So the Yankees signed Mike Pelton. So that was a big stab to Toronto in that division, and they got him for $35 million with the vesting option that last year. That's a lot of money too. Burton Neiman went to Detroit. This guy's a very solid player in this league, or has been. So he got signed for $19.4 million. He's had a good career. He might be, or so far with Arizona, good power, good speed, good defense. He's a good all-around player. I looked at him earlier in free agency, and he's just quite a bit outside my budget. So Baltimore would trade me Deshaun Woolard, who is a starter. 3.5 potential. OSA likes him a little bit better, 3 and 4 potential. But he's saying he will be ineffective as a starter. I wonder what that means. Oh, this is his. Got it. This is his relief pitcher ratings. I'm not going to really trade Quarteng right now for that because, Quarteng, I might have to have him as my starting catcher, so I'll reject that one. It's a few days away from the winter meetings. And we got lucky. Pun intended. So Nehemiah Lucky signs with us. Rob LaRue signs with us. So that has definitely eaten into our budget now, but that's what I was expecting. So now we're projected budget room of $16 million, but I'm not feeling as bad about that pitching staff for the most part. I mean, this guy is going to be it's going to be questionable, but $14.2 million with a player opt out. Hopefully I'll get the value out of that. I mean, that's kind of it's similar to what I did in the Cincinnati playthrough when I went with Hamels. Injuries came along and kind of derailed him a little bit. But this guy, you got 2 very strong pitches, great stuff. So he's going to have fairly high strikeout numbers. His control, though, is a question. He's going to give up some home runs. I'm hoping I don't regret this because that 2.4 wins above replacement, that may have been his best year since he's been in the league. So I'm hoping that I've got a decent pitching coach now, Adam Butler. I'm hoping that he will help this guy out. He favors ground ballers, so we'll see if he can help him. He is a ground ball pitcher, so might be a good match there. And then Lucky, even though he's just a 2-star catcher, his defense is better, and he's going to want to be in that starting lineup. So great guy to have on the team, though, and it's just a 1-year contract. If he plays up to what he's done in the past, other than last year, maybe I'll get some decent value out of him at that money. So another pitcher thrown out here. And I've seen this name before in Zunza. I mean, he's fragile, and that scares me a little bit, but his ratings and numbers are up there. I mean, I think he would be a good mix to put in that pitching staff. So right now, looking at the pitching staff, what do we got? We got Prieto, Ood, LaRue, McSparron. A fairly good mix. If I were to pick up the guy I was thinking about trading for, that would really put me over the top. But one of these guys I think would be okay in a fifth starter spot, either Furlong or Babone. So I'll be okay with that for now. I'll probably even slot LaRue in there right now. And one other thing I liked about LaRue is he's a lefty, and his ratings against righties weren't too bad, considering that he was a lefty. But we'll see. It was a gamble, but there wasn't much available. So now going up to the winter meetings. And a personal message again. The Braves pick up a 3-star pitcher here, but he's injured. And Godinez went with the Cubs. So the Cubs have been pretty active here in the offseason. They got him relatively cheap. I mean, not even $10 million a year. And Danny Gregoric from Texas. Another good pitcher except for that control. He's got really good stuff. He's going to be a free agent next year, though. And more than likely, I wouldn't be able to offer him anything. So Bobby McKay re-ups with the Astros. He's been a solid player in this league for the most part. They get him for $21 million. He first 2 years in the league was just incredible. His rookie year, he was a 10.3 wins above replacement. I think he was the most valuable player award in 26 and 27 back to back. But since then, he's kind of come off that pace. His average is fairly low. He might work his way up to 500 home runs, though, for his career. And then Joe Mann, who San Francisco has on the trading block right now, they re-signed him through 2039, $19 million a year. So that puts him off my radar. I wonder if he's still on the trading block, though. That's something I still feel like there are some things that have changed. Yeah, he's still on that trading block. There's some things that have changed with the way trading is doing, and I don't know if it's my league where it's doing this. I don't know if I've noticed it as much in that Cincinnati playthrough, but you see a lot of good players on this trading block, and I'm kind of going into it with a little bit of skepticism sometimes, because you'll have guys like Joe Mann who just signed who are thrown out there, and I don't want to take advantage of the AI if there's something going on. But if it's a reasonable trade, yeah, I'll swing for it. But that one seems a little bit off to me right now, that they would sign him and then put him on that trading block. And then Juan Vallejo, a guy who pitched for us a few years ago, he's still getting good money in this league. 3-star pitcher. He signed a 3-year deal with Kansas City at $16.4 million. Again, it's just incredible the way the pitchers are valued here. Fairly big trade between Cardinals and Red Sox. Irfan goes to the Red Sox, and Eric Jennings, who's a subpar player, goes to the Cardinals, Milwaukee, and the Cubs. So Milwaukee trades. If it wasn't for that movement, I'd say this might be a pretty decent picture. But you can look at those home run numbers: 47, 46, 45. So I'm just going to go through right now and see what would happen without me doing anything, if I would get any trade offers. So here is Blanco, subpar. International fine. Tim Moore. Alfredo Santana signs with the Mariners for $31 million for 3 years. So if he's still listed as durable, had a decent year last year, 3 more years, I think that would get him to 500 home runs for sure. 2,500 plus hits. Hall of Fame career for sure. And Wally Kuhn goes to Detroit. So Detroit's being active here in the offseason. 4-star player, great player for several years with Atlanta. Probably a big part of why they've had their run. All right, so far no real offers coming in. And Juan Cerda. Yeah, I mean, he's a reliever. Try to stay away from those guys who are, even though they have the ratings individually to be a starter, I don't like it if they're not really truly starting pitcher like this guy. He is rated as starting pitcher, 3.5 potential with 3 right now. Great individual pitches, but poor personality. And he's with the Mets. I don't want to trade within the division right now. So that was it for the winter meetings. No offers came through, and I didn't really want to be too active right now. I think I'm still waiting on Villa. See if he still favors my offer. He does. That would be, I think, a really big pickup if he keeps those ratings going and if he stays healthy enough. So if I look at I'm going to go to that Rule 5 draft, and we'll at least look at the pool, the draft pool, to see if there's anybody available out there. Still getting, oh man, if he wasn't fragile, he's a potential 5-star pitcher. He's a leadership class, but who knows what I would, if they would even offer me anything or take anything. No, not off the bat anyway. So back to Simmons to the Rule 5 draft. Zion Spearman, he's been offered to me a few times. Grant Burton, center fielder, signs with Cleveland. He's another guy from Atlanta who's probably had a few good seasons with him, part of their dominance this last few years. So now we're up to the draft. Austin Beck's still around at 36. He signs with Kansas City, even though he's listed as wrecked. I guess he could give you some options off the bench. He has not really turned into the player it looked like he was going to be when he started in the league, mainly through injuries, I would think. Good bench player, though. So now let's look at the pool and just see what might be available. And it's been slim pickings the last few years, so we might be in that same boat. But I'm liking what I'm seeing in a couple places here. Number one, Ramirez at catcher. The only thing is his defense is really poor, and he's never played above low A. He's on my team, actually, too, so my scout likes him a whole lot better than OSA. We got Josh Weigel, left fielder. Would be a good bench player for sure, but he's never played above AAA, and ratings aren't that solid. Ortega, poor control. Shortstop. Again, he's from low down in the minors still. Arzola, good individual ratings from this guy, but he's 19. My guess is he's a long way away from being ready for the majors. So big discrepancies here, too, between my scout and OSA. They've got a few 3-star rated players, but nothing that's really standing out. So this really tightened up here in the last few years with this version of Out of the Park Baseball. The Rule 5 draft, it's getting harder and harder to find some guys you can rely on. Acquire. I mean, the way the Rule 5 draft works, of course, you have to keep those guys on that active roster or waive them. DFA him. And a lot of young guys here. I'm not seeing any real players, maybe, except for this guy. Seems like he's been around for a while, and he has, but he's out for 5 months. Not seeing anybody who's really started that much, or if at all, in the majors yet. I mean, this guy looks like a good prospect at first. At least for my scout, great defense. But again, you would be pulling this guy up from Double A. I think that would be a gamble. Oh well, so it's worth a look. So that's not going to play through for us. We're not going to have anybody to pick up there. So I want to take a look now at where we stand before I finish the rest of the off-season offline. So we've got 4 decent pitchers in that starting rotation. One of these guys, Bavone Furlong, will probably pick it up and make the 5th spot. I think we've got really good options in the bullpen, top to bottom. So I'm not too worried about the pitching staff. Again, I'm not going to get the ace that I've always wanted, but hopefully I can get through with that. Catching, in all honesty, I might go with a platoon situation that sees Kwarteng starting a little bit more. I might give him more time in spring training and see if his defense can improve, because if his defense improves, then he's going to be my starting catcher, because his offense, those numbers are good, and he's really young. First base is a really big question mark. Ma, Lohman, those guys are pretty solid. And honestly, shortstop could be a question mark too. I like what Koopman did when I called him up for me, but he's still a bench player, and not too solid at short either yet. But give him some time in spring. Maybe he could develop. If not, Single is a great defensive infielder. I'd rather see him coming off the bench as well, but I'm probably not going to have anything to throw in there at short, unless outside chance that Condrey starts showing his development. OSA is still higher on this guy than my scout. He's got good defensive rating, speed, potential power, and everything, and contact would be decent. He's just never shown it. And I caught him up quite a bit last year between AA and AAA, and I don't know if this year if he would be ready, but I'll take a look at him in spring training. And so in that outfield, Vargas is a 3-star player right now, but I'd like to move him to left and put Cox in first, and I think that's what I'll do when spring training comes along, unless I do make another big move between now and then. But as always, thanks for watching. I appreciate your likes and subscribes and comments, and I hope you're still staying around with this playthrough. I haven't got any plans necessarily to give up on it until I make that World Series run, but it's going to be tough. I think it's probably going to be tougher now than it has been since I've been playing this one, and of course going back and forth with this one in the Phillies. We'll see how it goes when the baseball season winds down. I mean, I still play out of the park baseball quite a bit. I wouldn't mind throwing some other games into the mix on my channel. It's just time constraints for one thing, and just I love playing this game so much. I haven't really found a game that I think would excite me enough to put on the channel, but that might be another option. One of the things too, and if you followed through this episode, you get to the end here. One of the things I've been toying with is there is a relegation league quick start in Out of the Park Baseball 19, and I loaded it up, and on the side when I've been having time, I've been working through it on my own to see how it plays, and I'm intrigued by that idea. If you look at how soccer or football works, in Europe with some of those relegation leagues, I think it's a great idea. And the structure of the league that the guy has put up there, whoever created the quick start, I would thank him if I knew his name. It's not too bad, and I'm going to play around with that and see if it's fun enough. That might be something I look at doing in the off season, is starting one of those. And if you have any interest or not, let me know in the comments. I'd be interested to hear what you have to say about it. it looks like it could be a fun way to play this game. But as always, thanks for watching. Next episode will probably be with the Reds, but then I'll get back to this Phillies playthrough back in spring training. We'll see you next time.